Good morning students, welcome to the online teaching session of Academic World School Bimitra. I hope that you all are doing well. We are studying the third chapter of Indian economic development, economic reform since 1991, and in the last video lecture, as I think you all watched that video, we discussed that the globalization, World Trade Organization and the argument in favor and in against of the new economic policy. Today we will deal with goods and services tax and demonetization, because these both terms that is used after 1991 only, and these are the reforms comes in our economy. So let's start. First of all, goods and services tax, GST. It is not goods and service tax, it is goods and services tax. So what is the goods and services tax? So goods and services tax law in India is a comprehensive multi-state destination based tax that is levied on every value addition. Okay. What is GST? So first of all, GST is a kind of indirect tax. In the last video lecture, I explained you mainly the taxes are two types, direct tax and indirect tax. Direct tax like income tax, wealth tax, corporation tax, etc. Whereas indirect tax like sales tax, like excise, custom, VAT, etc. So GST is one of the law that was passed on July 2017. It was implemented from July 2017 and passed in March 2017 with the amendment of 101 Indian Constitution. So GST replaced all those indirect taxes except the custom of Indian taxation, and this is one of the great reform, taxation reform in the Indian history after independence. So what is, first of all, goods and services tax is a comprehensive tax. It is a comprehensive tax, multi-stage. There are various stages of this GST. Destination based tax. What is the meaning of destination based tax? So destination based tax means that suppose that one producer is selling his or her product who resides in Delhi and he is selling his product in Maharashtra. So whatever the tax is levied on that product, that will be given to Maharashtra, not the Delhi. Means that it is a consumption based tax. Earlier the indirect taxes were origin based, but now it is based on the point of sale. To whomsoever it will sell, that there only the tax will be paid. So it is a destination based tax that is levied on every value addition. Value addition means that it is not levied on the entire, it will be only applicable on the value addition. I will explain you later how it will work. In simple words, goods and services tax is an indirect tax levied on the supply of goods and services. Supply of goods and services. GST is one indirect tax for the entire country, following the credo of one nation and one tax. One nation and one tax. It is following the credo of one nation and one tax. As I told you, it was introduced in India on 1st July 2017 and it replaced almost all indirect taxes prevalent so far. Mostly it replaced all the indirect taxes, but there were some taxes like custom is exception from this GST, that I will discuss you later. Now, what are the components of GST? So there are three components of GST: CGST, Central Goods and Services Tax; SGST, State Goods and Services Tax; IGST, Integrated Goods and Services Tax. So now let's see. First one, Central Goods and Services Tax, CGST. This tax is collected by central government on an intra-state sale. State sale means that within the state, not from one state to another state. Suppose Chhattisgarh. So if there is a trading from one district to another district, for example Raipur to Bemetra, so this is the intra-state sale. Okay, so this tax is collected by central government. Second one, State Goods and Services Tax, SGST. Who collects it? So collected by state government on an intra-state sale. It is also levied on intra-state sale. Third one, Integrated Goods and Services, IGST. So integrated goods and services is collected by central government for interstate sale. Interstate means that from one state to another state. So that is known as interstate sale. So there are three components of GST: CGST, Central Goods and Services Tax, that is collected by government on intra-state sale. Second one, SGST, that is collected by state government on intra-state sale. And third one is that Integrated Goods and Services Tax, that is collected by central government on interstate sale. So these are the mainly three components of GST. Now, how we can understand where IGST will be regulate and where CGST or SGST will regulate? So I will take one example. Let that a producer or a seller from Gujarat, he is selling his or her product to Punjab of 50,000 rupees. Let that GST apply on the product is 18%. So 18% of 50,000 is around 9,000 rupees. And here the point of sale is moving from one state Gujarat to another state Punjab. So here there are two states. So this is not the intra-state sale, whereas it is a inter-state sale. That's the reason the collection of GST or tax is by the central government, and central government will receive 9,000 rupees. Okay? Whereas another example, in the same state Gujarat, if the producer is selling the product on which rate of GST is applied 12% from one district to another district within the state, so it is the intra-state sale. The total value of the product is 50,000 rupees, and as I told you, the rate of GST is 12%. So 12%, 50,000, 12% is around 6,000 rupees. So here in this case, this 12% will be applied as the CGST as well as SGST, and here it is not 12% and 12%, but combinedly it will be 6% plus 6%. 6% CGST, 6% SGST. So 12%, 50,000, 6,000 rupees, it will be divided into two parts, 3,000, 3,000. 3,000 tax will go to the state government and 3,000 rupees tax will go to the central government. So this is the total mechanism of CGST, SGST and IGST. Now move towards the next one. What are the advantages of GST? So there are various advantages. For example, first advantage of GST is elimination of multiplicity of taxes. On a whole, GST has replaced a number of indirect taxes which were levied before the implementation of GST. Earlier there were a number of taxes were there, but now that was replaced by the GST because it is based on the credo of one nation, one state, one tax. Second one, elimination of cascading effect. Now this is important. What is the meaning of cascading effect or tax on tax? To understand it, I will take one example. I am just raising it. I hope that you have written about it. Please note all the important points. Pause the video and you can note it down. Now I will take one example. Let that this is the mechanism. Producer, wholesaler, retailer and consumer. Let that tax is 10%. This is the previous and this is the after GST. Previous GST and after GST. And we will assume that the total tax is 10%. This is not in GST because rate of GST is different, but I am just taking here the hypothetical example to explain about it. So let that there is a producer, he purchased the raw material, let that for 50 rupees, and he has manufactured and added some profit also, let that 50 rupees. So total is 100. Now on this 100 rupees 10% tax is applied. So 10% of 100 is 10. So the total cost will be 100 plus 10 equal to 110. So producer will sell to the wholesaler for 110 rupees. Now it moved towards the wholesaler. Wholesaler will purchase it 110 and he will also add some value. He will also add the value. He will also add his own profit. Let that 10 rupees. So now it is total 120. On this 120, again the 10% tax will be applied. So the 10% will be 12. So 120 plus 12, it is equal to 142 rupees. 132 rupees. And he sell this to the retailer. So retailer has purchased it in 132. Now again retailer will also add some profit, some values. So whatever for packaging or to keeping it in his showroom and all. So retailer has added here 132 plus 10. It is 142. Again the indirect tax will apply at the rate of 10%. So 10% of 142 is 14.2. So 142 plus 14.2 is equal to 156.2. So finally, what is the rate? Finally, what is the rate for the consumer here? 156.2. Let's understand again. This system is earlier of GST, before GST. So a producer is there. He or she purchased the raw material of 50 rupees and he has manufactured the raw material and added some value profit, and the total will be 100. On this output value, indirect tax will apply of 10%. So 100 plus 10 equal to 110, and on that he sell that to the wholesaler. Wholesaler has purchased it on 110. Definitely wholesaler will also add some profit, some values. So wholesaler has added 10 rupees. So what is the total cost? 120. On this output of wholesaler, again the tax will apply with the rate of 10%. So 120 plus 10% tax, that is 12. So that is total one is 132. And on this 132, retailer will purchase because wholesaler sold the product to retailer. Now retailer, he will also add some value, some profit. So 132 plus 10 equal to 142. Again on this output of retailer, tax will apply at the rate of 10%. So 142 plus 10%, 14.2. So it will be total is 156.2. What is the total here? 156.2. This was the situation prior to GST. Now, what we studied in the GST, it is levied on the supply of goods and services, and it is levied on the value addition. Value addition means that, now let's understand. Again we will take, let that GST rate is also 10%. So producer has purchased the raw material of 50 rupees, okay, or he has the raw material of 50 rupees and he manufactured or added the value of 50. So what is total? 100. Now in the case of GST, the tax will not apply on this 100, whereas the tax will be applied on the value addition. And what is the value addition by the producer? Of 50 rupees. So what is the 10% of 50? It is 5. So the total cost will be 100 plus 5 equal to 105. And on this rate, producer will sell it to the wholesaler. To whom he will sell? To the wholesaler. Now, wholesaler purchase it at the rate of 105, and definitely the wholesaler will also add certain value. So let that wholesaler have added the value of 10 rupees. Added the value of 10 rupees. What is total? 115. 115. Now, what is the total value added by the wholesaler? That is 10 rupees. So the GST will only apply on the value addition, not the total output. So what is that? 1 rupees. 10% of 10 is 1 rupees. So total will be 115 plus 1 equal to 116. And on this rate, wholesaler sold the product to the retailer. Again, it moved towards the retailer at 116 rupees, right? And retailer has also added some value, let that 10 rupees. Total is 126. Here also the GST will apply, but not on the total. It will be only apply on the value addition. So 126 plus 10% of 10 equal to 1. Total is 127 and retailer will sell the product to consumer at the rate 127. So this is the main advantage of GST. You can compare in the earlier the total price for a consumer was 156.2 and after GST it is 127. There is a gap of around 30 rupees. So this is applicable after the GST. This is the advantage of GST. And here is one concept of input tax credit that I have not explained you, but I am going to explain. This is a hypothetical example only to explain you how the GST work and how it is different from the earlier prior to the GST. Now, what is input tax credit? So, government stated that the GST will only apply on the value addition, and if the producer has already given the GST on the inputs and again the GST is applied on the output, so the net GST producer or the person will give output minus input. Take one example that will be helpful for you. Suppose that there is a seller and for a product GST apply, total GST apply is 450 rupees. There is a product on which GST is applied 450 rupees, and this particular seller or the producer has purchased three inputs: input A, input B, input C. Let that whatever the input he has purchased, on that also GST applied and he already paid the GST. Suppose that on point A, for the input A, he paid 100 rupees GST. For input B, he paid 70 rupees GST, and input C, he paid 130 rupees GST. So total he paid 300 rupees as a GST for the inputs, and again 450 rupees applied on the output of the product. So what he will pay actually? So he will pay, here the GST will apply equal to GST levied on output minus GST levied on inputs. So our output, the GST levied 450 rupees minus on input GST rupees 100 plus 70 plus 130. So this is total 300. So 450 minus 300 equal to 150. So the producer will only pay 150 rupees, because this is totally a mechanism. This is a mechanism that is technologically based. So the total GST is applied is 150 rupees only, because if you have paid the GST once, you will not pay it again and again. That happened in the previous system of indirect taxes. And in the previous system you can see that here the tax is applied, again the tax is applied here, again the tax is applied here. It is known as tax on tax or cascading effect. This is known as the cascading effect. So the second one is that after GST, cascading effect was eliminated. GST is mainly technologically driven. It is basically online system. Here all the works are done through online only, registration for receipt or any other work is only through the online. So it speed up the process, ease of doing business. It also makes easy the doing business. Business is also done easily. Reduce flow of black money. Black money is also curbed because it is totally online system. So the chances of corruption is less in this. Challenges of GST. So requires robust internet system. First thing is that robust internet system is required because it is totally online system and it is a very big challenge of GST. Second one, GST is yet to cover all goods produced in the country. There are many goods which are not comes under GST. For example, electricity generation, alcohol, petrol and diesel, tobacco are some notable products out of the ambit of GST. Next, difficult for medium and small enterprises because many medium and small enterprises are not skilled or they are not having the knowledge of online system or internet system. That's the reason they are hiring any other personnel who will do the accounting and other auditing of their product. So that is also a challenge for their work. Not replace all indirect taxes such as custom duties. So the motto of one nation one tax is a myth. One India one tax is a myth because there are many taxes is not replaced by GST. You can see some goods also out of GST and some taxes like the custom duty is levied nowadays also after GST also. So this is a myth. One India one tax is a myth. So these are the certain challenges of the GST. Now the rate of GST is decided by the GST Council and they are also amending it time to time. So for main tax slabs ranging from 5% to 28%. There are mainly 4 tax slabs: 5%, 12%, 18% and 28%. Essential items like grains would be taxed at 0%. For the essential item, the tax would be 0%. There is no tax on the essential good like the grain. Then common use items taxed at 5% like the spices. 12% and 18% are two standard rate of GST. Like the processed foods, the refrigerator, smartphone, the tax is applied 12% and 18%. And last one, highest 28% rate will be applicable on the luxury items. So on the luxury items, the highest tax is levied for 28%. Please note it down. Okay, after GST, our next topic is demonetization. First of all, what is the meaning of demonetization? So, demonetization is the act of removing a currency unit of its status as legal tender. Means that when the currency status, the value of currency is removed by the government or from the status of legal tender, so this kind of act is known as the demonetization. In India also, on 8th November 2016, the government of India made an announcement with profound implications for the Indian economy. In India also, demonetization announced on 8th November 2016. It was decided to demonetize high value currency notes of denomination of rupees 500 and rupees 1000 currency notes with immediate effect, ceasing to the legal tender. The tender of these currency notes were removed, and this is known as the demonetization. Now, restrictions were placed on the convertibility of domestic money and the bank deposits. Many kind of restrictions were also made because at that time there was the less circulation of notes. The main aim of demonetization was to curb corruption, counterfeiting the use of high denomination notes for illegal activities like the terrorist fund and all, and especially the accumulation of black money. What is the meaning of black money? Black money generated by income that has not been declared to the tax authority. The money, that kind of saving or money that is not disclosed to the government, or on which the tax is not paid to the government, known as the black money. So the main aim of demonetization is to curb the black money, to curb the illegal activities, to curb the corruption and all. Once again, what is demonetization? Act of removing the currency unit of its status as legal tender. In India, on 8th November 2016, it was declared by government to remove the legal tender of rupees 500 and the 1000 rupees. And with the help of all these, we can write the features of the demonetization. What are the main features of demonetization? So the first feature of demonetization that is viewed as a tax administrative measure. It is viewed as a tax administrative measure. Means that the main aim, as I told you, here is also written, to curb the corruption, counterfeiting the use of high denomination note for illegal activities, and especially the accumulation of black money. So earlier, many people in India, they were not disclose their savings, or that was the main reason behind the tax evasion. So demonetization is viewed as the tax administrative measure in which all the person have to disclose their savings that is not shown earlier. Second one, it showed that tax evasion will be no longer tolerated. So the second thing that we can say in the case of demonetization, that through demonetization, government wanted to show that tax evasion in India will not be tolerated, because that is the main way by that government generate the revenue. If the government will not generate revenue, so how the infrastructure or other developmental work will start? So that is the second feature of the demonetization. Third one, it led to savings of people into the formal financial system. Channelized. Through demonetization, now the government has also given them that the persons who are having the 500 rupees and 1000 rupees, they have to save all those in the banks, and by that no person will keep these money with them, and through this the savings of the people were channelized under the formal financial system. Means that the savings of the people now under the control of the government. Next one, it led to create a less cash. What is the meaning of less cash? Means that cashless economy. One of the main feature of demonetization is that it also led the economy towards the cashless economy, where it promotes the digital transaction among the people. So these are the main features of the demonetization. Now, what are the positive impact of demonetization in our country? So let's start. Positive impact: improve the tax compliance. First of all, this improve the tax compliance because a large number of people that disclose their savings to government, and they also comes under the tax ambit of the government. Second one, boost formal financial system. It also boosts the formal financial system because people now they started depositing their savings of 500 rupees and 1000 rupees as per the government statement, and now the formal financial system, they receive lot of finance which they can again lend to the people who are needy at a lower interest rate. So it also boosts the formal financial system. Next one, tax compliance will improve and corruption will decrease. Due to the demonetization, many people they disclose their savings, and it ultimately increase the revenue of the government, and also it helps in the improvement of tax compliance. Next, helps in tax administration, and with the help of all the three impacts, it also helps in the tax administration. Now all the transactions of the people now under the formal financial system. Now there is a control of the government over the watch of the government on the transactions of the people, because it also promotes the digital transactions. So these are the main impact, positive impact of the demonetization. But there are certain challenges also. So there are certain criticism. First of all, there were long queues outside banks and ATM booths. This is the practical criticism. You have also saw there were long queues outside the banks and ATM booth. Second one, the shortage of currency in circulation had an adverse impact. At that time, many people they suffered a lot, because at that time digital transaction was not in the trend, and shortage of currency has impacted negative impact over the economy. The demand in the economy fall. Third one, digital transactions and internet connectivity, again the same problem. At that time, most of the people were not having the internet connectivity cell phones, and they were unaware with the digital transaction, because most of the people are not literate as much for the digital transaction. So these are the main criticism of the demonetization. Now, what are the impact of the demonetization in different sector. So first of all, money and interest rate. So in case of money and interest rate, cash transaction declined due to the demonetization. Cash transaction in India declined. Bank deposits increased. Increase in financial saving. People started saving in the banks and banks deposits increased. Next one, private wealth. So private wealth declined due to the denomination of the 500 rupees and 1000 rupees, as well as the prices of real estate fall. Public sector wealth, so there is no impact of demonetization on public sector wealth. Next, digitization. So this is one of the criticism of the demonetization of the digital transaction, because most of the people are not really know how to transact digitally, but among the new users, the digitization, digital transactions increased in our country after demonetization. Next, tax collection. So in case of tax collection, there we can see the increase. So I have written here, rise in income tax collection because of increased disclosure. Now people have to disclose their income to the government, and that's reason their income also comes under the formal sector, and the income tax was imposed on their savings, and due to that the income tax collection increased in our country. So I hope that you understood the GST as well as demonetization. I have tried to explain both the concept in a very easy manner, in a short manner, and after this lecture also you will get one assignment. Complete that assignment and send that through ERP in PDF form only. Till that, thank you. Stay home, stay safe.